that is, in Jeremy's story, he started with the school and with himself where they were at. And it was a collaborative reciprocal learning process throughout the time of working with cohort A. And he's taking that learning into his work with cohort B. But what Lori said earlier is that this is going to be a highly recursive process. So for instance, Teresa McDougall, you just mentioned in the chat that it's hard to get a complete student profile of strengths and growth edges when we don't trust our NWEA data, because we think that the fall data is probably influenced by a lot of parent help at home. And so we're not getting authentic ideas of where the kids are on their proficiency rates and their growth rates. We don't have current M-STEP data, and we haven't developed our systems yet for formative data. So this is where we are at, isn't it? And it's a perfect opportunity. But I want to make one thing really, really strongly firm in your minds. Wherever your school is at with how it's understanding its current state of literacy support for students, the fact that they've identified any priority growth targets for adults around classroom practice and school conditions, whether it's practices to get kids engaged remotely or working specifically on one of the literacy practices, this is all good, productive, and important work. But while that's happening, we can use the opportunity that's been created by the fact that we don't have these benchmark and summative assessments available to us. So if we're going to learn anything more about student strengths and growth edges, it's going to be through formative forms of data. And thank goodness, because if we want to find those targets, those actionable targets, we aren't going to find them in our state end of year data and in our M-STEP or in our MAP data. We're only going to find smoking guns. We're going to find pointers that say, look at this. Looks like you've got some issues with decoding. Looks like you've got some issues with comprehension. But it's not going to tell us what the issues are. And it's not going to tell us what the strengths are. The only way we're going to learn the strengths and growth edges that are actionable is through formative data. And that should be very freeing, but it shouldn't stop us from moving forward with working on whether it's classroom transitions, small group instruction, read alouds, getting kids engaged during small group instruction virtually. All of that will contribute to improved student success. And I want to compare that to Jeremy's favorite pastime in the winter, which is coaching small children to play basketball. And what we know is that our work is kind of like coaching to play a good basketball game. There are fundamentals of basketball. There's the dribbling and the passing and the blocking and the shooting, both from under the basket and from outside in the three-point line. We work on those fundamentals, and that's like working on the fundamentals of the essential literacy practice, on the fundamentals of engagement, on the fundamentals of transitions. And those are all going to do their job in helping improve student outcomes. But when we get to the point where we really understand student-specific growth edges, then we can use those fundamentals to play the better game and make more points in terms of student progress. So this graphic basically shows where we're at and what we're doing right now. We're continuing to work on the fundamentals. We're not going to stop our schools from doing that. But while we do that, we're going to get deeper and deeper understanding of our students by looking at our student background data, looking at behavior, looking at attendance and participation and engagement. Those are really important, especially now. We're also going to get deeper understandings of our students by really looking at their academic development in literacy through classroom generated formative data. And we're going to get better and better at understanding what might be getting in the way of student progress by looking at indicators that there might be some things going on with our students in terms of their social emotional development. And that's often going to be manifested through certain behaviors. Now, the behaviors that we're most concerned about are those that we actually experience when we're working with kids remotely. And that is any behaviors that keep them from connecting and being engaged while they're connecting. So that's what we're doing right now. We're continuing to work on read alouds or small group instruction or all those other issues that are part of our fundamentals of practice. But while we're doing that, we're really getting clearer and clearer about how to use those fundamentals to target very specific actionable areas of student growth. And that's all that we're doing today and then over the next few months is really focusing on how we can get better data out of the classroom day-to-day work with students to better inform what those growth targets should be.